How's it going, everyone? My name is Michael SK, and welcome back to Higurashi When They Cry, Chapter 7. I believe we are truly approaching the, I guess, climactic part of the chapter. You know, we're like 30 episodes in now, and we're finally getting to that. This has been a very eventful chapter. We're only just now getting back to the plot at hand and learning about, really, the history of the village, of the Hinamizawa syndrome, of who our antagonist is. We're learning so much right now. And it's really crazy, just how everything's kind of coming up here at the end. But it has been a wild ride, so if we truly are reaching the climactic point, then yay, finally, goddamn. But yeah, things are definitely heating up because this is possibly the night that Rika dies. At least this is the minimum. This is at least the night that she dies. Doesn't have to be, but it's a starting point. So will she be able to survive now that she has the help of her friends? The club members do believe her, or at least that's what they're saying. So see what happens. They got to find out who the real antagonist is like we have. They do not know. How are they going to do that?
途中で食事に寄った方が良かったんじゃないですか？
そうですね。もうすぐ8時か。お昼が遅かったから忘れてました。とりあえず話を聞いたら Oh yeah,
that's another thing. So Rika is under the protection of, well, quote unquote, under the protection of the mountain dogs, and realistically under the protection of the police. Insane how the police are being so helpful in these recent chapters. But yes, they've decided that they're going to tell Ueshi everything, no matter what he says, whether he believes them or not.
交代を送らないと答える頃ですね。フルデさんが気を利かせて出前でも取っててくれればいいんですがね。
Higurashi and Kumagaya had passed through Okinomiya and were getting closer and closer to Hinamizawa. They hurried on their way, driving through the dark streets.
フルデリカの全てを話そうっていうのはとても気になるっすよね。
多分相当とんでもない話が飛び出しますよ。あの村はね。 本当の名前は鬼ヶ淵村。鬼ヶ淵ってのは沼ですからね。沼の名を冠した村なわけです。
沼なだけにそこが知れませんね。フルで理科の護衛ですけどどうします？
彼女の話次第では秘密の場所にかくまった方がいいでしょうね。南沢ってのは村が丸ごと魔物の腹中と同じなんです。あの村の中では何が起こるかわからない。とにかく 聞いてみないことにはわかりません。
フルデ家の当主が命を狙われていて、その崎家次期当主はそれを守ろうと思っている。そんな状況下で誰がフルデ理科を？あとは君吉家くらいしか勢力が思いつかないです。
君吉家には臭い話は聞いてないんだけどな。やっぱり村には信仰を軸にした勢力が隠れてるってのかな。沼の底がどうなってるのか楽しみです。
The road they were on was cutting through the rice fields, leading them to pass by the scene of Jiro Tomitake's murder.
高野が富武を放置した。そこまでは間違いないと思いますが、富武のあの異常な死に方は一体何だってんでしょう。鑑識のじいさま、覚醒剤は出なかったって言ったんですよね。
確かに薬物反応は出なかったそうですが、だからって絶対なかったって保証はありません。
And now we know why that they didn't find anything.
この世にはおかしな薬なんてきっと無数にある。それら全部が間違いなく使われていないなんて保証は誰にも出せませんよ。自分が知らない薬だから実在しないなんて、そんな傲慢は刑事が口にしちゃいけない。
Yeah, something like that.
あったからにはあるんです。だからきっと富武に首をかき破らせる薬は実在する。そいつは 犯人逮捕の折にたっぷり喋ってもらいますよ。あるいはフルで理科が話してくれると一番嬉しいんですがね。クマちゃんも今回の山で決めつける捜査がどれだけ冤罪を生み出してきたかよく分かったでしょう。
ありゃひどかったっすね。あいつうちの署に嫌がったら俺でも許さないところです。
結局 最後まで間違いは認めてませんからね。お隣さんはあくまでも あの死体は高野美代だったで通すつもりのようです。でもうちは高野美代生存でいきますよ。あとは県警同士のトップ会談で決着するでしょう。向こうのボンミスは確定してるんですから、認めると怒られると思って躍起になって上塗りしてるんですよね。いやはや、そういう体質は改めないといけません。
The car suddenly shook. The concrete road had ended, leaving only gravel. At the point where the gravel road begins, you're officially in Hinamizawa. They continue to drive through the woods for a while.
クマちゃん、ちょいと止めて。
は？
Yoshi had told him to stop immediately. Kumagai quickly slammed on the brakes. Their seatbelts tightened up, keeping them in their seats. Yeah, that's how seatbelts work.
あの車、何やってんだろうな。こんなところで。
You guys remember Chapter 3? There was another event that occurred. Ueshi went missing. Ueshi tapped on the rearview mirror. There was a van parked just off the road. Rather beat up, it looked like it was used for a private company. There was no reason for someone to park their car here, especially at this time of night. Kumagai also thought it looked suspicious. The car seemed empty, but there was a light flashing in the woods nearby. Probably a flashlight.
不審ですね。こんな時間に。それにしてもよく気づきましたね。
いつも言ってます。刑事は四六時中目を皿にしてろってことです。何やってんだろうな。不法投棄かな。まさか死体埋めてるんじゃないだろうな。
Not yet.
あるいは刺激不足のアベックかな。車のセンスからしてそれはないか。なあ、沖宮 PS どうぞ。聞こえてるかな。なはは。こんばんは、さようなら。
こちら沖宮 PS 感度良好です。
車両ナンバー紹介お願いします。獅子骨ハノ4344。
不詳獅子骨ハノ4344。少々お時間もらいますがよろしい。
お願いします。
おいさん、地図で見るとここ電話会社の施設がありますね。
電話会社の施設って何ですかそりゃ。
It was listed as a facility, but it wasn't staffed. It was just a place where machines were installed. Kumagai wasn't sure how telephone lines actually work, but either way, it seemed like some kind of connecting device was located there.
普通のワゴンだよな。電話会社にゃ見えませんね。
電話会社ならそう書いた車で来るはずっすよね。
委託の伝説業者か何かの可能性もあります。直接聞いた方が早そうですね。
Ueshi wasn't sure if that was the case. After all, why would any phone company go to do maintenance so late at night?
ちょいと行ってみましょうか。
Gee, I wonder why Comcast Xfinity thought it was a good idea to do maintenance at any point of the day.
フォルデさんたちを待たせてますからね。
At least that's what they always said.
パパッと行きましょう。
そうっすね。
His well-owned detective instinct was trying to tell him something. This feeling wasn't one that Ueshi could easily explain. He has a strong sense that something was suspicious without any real reasoning behind it. Ueshi trusted that he could judge others' character with that sense.
ウグイス2よりウグイス1。
Uh-oh.
車両が1台停車。2人降りました。おそらく刑事です。そちらへ接近中。1分未満で接触します。
It was pitch black, yet they could see the two newcomers clearly. They were probably using a night vision scope.
了解。全隊員注意せよ。ウグイス2から5はグリーンライトを待て。ウグイス7から8は前後 100m のクリアを確認せよ。
待機。ウグイス4、5。ウグイス4、了解。
Well, these are our mountain dogs.
ウグイス5了解。
ウ
Wow.
グイス7、了解。
ウグイス8了解。
ウグイスより本部。ウグイスより本部。電話設備工作中にトラブル。
A modification of the phone facility.
私服警官2名の職質と思われる。発砲許可を申請。
本部了解。許可を待て。
By the time Ueshi and Kumagai reached the phone facility, they were being watched from all directions. There were 2 pairs of binoculars and 2 sniper rifles pointing at them. The Mountain Dog operatives worked in 2-man units, a sniper and spotter, to secure the means of retreat. They had all taken different positions so they could shoot Ueshi no matter where he tried to run. They were all in camouflage suits, hiding deep in the woods. Ueshi, of course, had no chance of spotting them. The snipers had their rifles trained on the detective's head. Ueshi and Kumagai had no idea that they were on the verge of losing their very lives. The snipers' rifles had their safeties on, but a flick of the thumbs would release them. In other words, they were ready to shoot if given the order. The detectives found the fenced-in machinery right behind the parked van. There was a sign there saying that it was the property of the Nippon Telegraph and Telephone Corporation, and another sign warning people to keep away.
どうもこんにちは。
すみません。作業中ですんで入らないでもらえますかね。
There were 4 men working there, wearing blue overalls. They had a toolbox open and were working on some wires.
どうも仕事中お邪魔してすみません。警察の者でございます。いえね、不思議なところに不思議な時間に車が止まっていたもので、どうしちゃったのかなと思いまして。
そうですか。うちらももうちょっとで終わりますんで。
おたくらどちらさんです？電電の人じゃないでしょう。
ああ、失礼しました。おこのぎ電気設備工事と申します。あれ
Okonogi Electrics, huh? Damn, it's always Okonogi something.
すみません。名刺を切らしちゃってるみたいです。
おこのぎ電気設備工事さんって会社どちらです？
はい。沖宮になりますけど。
会社の電話番号と住所を教えてください。
なんでそんなこと聞きますか？
電話番号忘れちゃいました？
Ueshi looked at them with a piercing glare. Their response was very suspicious. Usually the vehicle on an electric company is full of various types of electrical equipment and repair tools. However, the van parked there had nothing inside, and it looked like just an ordinary car. Also, a company vehicle usually has the name of the company painted on it. But this one was just a plain van with no markings on it. None of that was the reason that Ueshi found them suspicious, though. It was their attitude that bothered them, or bothered him. They didn't sound nor look like typical contractors. They were obviously not electricians. It was far too late in the day, and there were far too many of them. They were also clearly suspicious of Ueshi. However, that was all he could tell just by looking around. He found them suspicious, but had no idea what they were up to. One of the men told Ueshi the phone number. Kumagai wrote down the number so he could ask the station to call and confirm it was real.
私らそんな怪しいもんじゃありませんって。
Only a suspicious person would say that they're not doing anything suspicious. I'm just saying, that's usually how it is.
あんたら怪しすぎですって。一体何者です？委託業者なら作業写真用に作業前作業後とか書かれた黒板とかあったりするでしょう。そういうのもないですし、だいたいあんたたちの雰囲気が違いすぎます。
おまわりさん、そんな意地悪言われちゃかなわないです。勘弁してください。私ら早く作業を終えて帰らなきゃならないんです。
Judging from their progress, it didn't look like they'd be cleaning up anytime soon. In fact, it almost seemed like they were just getting started.
もう化けの皮は剥がれてんだよ兄ちゃん。電気屋に化けるときはまずバイトして勉強してからにしな。
Ueshi raised his voice threateningly. The members of the Mountain Dogs gradually started to look more and more annoyed. Ueshi looked over their expressions and gave them a big wide grin. However, Ueshi had no idea. He thought he could handle these suspicious people with no issues. Of course, in reality, they were horrific demons that he had no chance against. Meanwhile, Kumagai was heading back to the car. He was intending to contact the police department. He was going to call the station using the radio. There's a lot of he was going to do this and that, meaning he never got to do that. Then in turn, the police department would contact the NTT. That way, it would become clear who they were really dealing with.
本部よりウグイス1発砲許可
Oh, they're dead.
ウグイス7クリア
ウグイス8クリア。
The sniper was still aiming at Kumagai's head as he headed back toward their car. The safety, that last line protecting Kumagai's life, was disengaged. The sniper put his finger on the trigger. He was wearing a glove with the fingertips cut out. The finger poking through the hole was very rough and merciless. For as soon as he slightly moved that finger, he would take someone's life.
ウグイス1より狙撃犯オールグリーン
Kumagai heard a quiet noise. It was similar to the sound of the jump rope that he used to use as a whip when he was little. And that was the last thought Kumagai had in this world. Kumagai collapsed onto the gravel. That was it. He didn't even twitch. Bushi was lying on his back on the... he was laying on his back on the concrete after getting shot in the chest. His lungs were filled with blood, which began to pour out of his mouth. Bushi only realized that he'd been shot when the world began to blur before his eyes. As his world keeled over, he saw a man in a work uniform leveling a gun at him, but it didn't matter anymore as he started drowning on his own blood. Well, that happened fast. Jesus. Well, so much for the protection from the police.
先ほどのナンバーが判明しました。大石社どうぞ。大石社、応答願います。電波悪いのかな。大石社、応答願い。
出ませんね。
So this is pretty much what happened in Chapter 3, huh? They were out investigating, and as the mountain dogs were preparing for the murder of Rika Furude and to move further in with the operation to really slaughter everybody, well, they murdered them. Made it so there was no corpse to find.
大石さんが車両紹介？誰の車だよ。
村人の車ですね。至って平凡な。
何者だよ。大石さんが聞いてくるからにはただものじゃないんだろ。
突起事項欄は完全に空欄ですね。S 号指定もなし、減点もなしだし。
パッシングでもされて腹が立ったんじゃないの？あの人根に持つとなかなか忘れないタイプなんだよ。
Maybe he should have left some more details with them when he called in. You know, just in case.
ウグイスより本部2名を射殺作業を再開
本部了解警官の車両処理は慎重に行われたし3佐ウグイスは警官2名を排除作業を再開
Oh.
おやすみなさい、大石さん。
Okay, what's with this outfit here?
私の尻尾をつかめてもう一息だと思ったでしょうに。残念ね。コーヒーをもらえるかしら。
どうぞ。しかし厄介な展開になってきましたね。R 宅には依然私服警官数名とそれから友人数名がいるそうです。 R は自分が今夜殺されることに感づいているとしか思えません。作戦が漏れています。やはり決行は延期すべきでは。
明日の朝には死体が見つかっていないといけないのよ。お偉いさんたちの日程上、その日が一番都合がいいって話なんだから。作戦は決行します。
The crucial part of this final mission was the death of Rika and what came after that. They couldn't just kill her whenever they wanted. Doing it at the right time was vital.
山犬による過剰な警備にかえって過敏に反応したのでしょうか。
違うわね。漏洩じゃない。予言よ、あれは。富武の死と、そして私ですら知り得なかった偽装死体の状態まで知っていた。あの子は女王なのよ。Hinamizawaの頂上存在の頂点に立つ女王で、巫女で降臨したるお社様の血脈に連なる正当な末裔。神を欺くことなどできない。知られるのは宿命だったのよ。フルでリカをあっさり暗殺などできるわけがなかった。いいわよ、リカちゃん。あなたと私、どちらがお社様の伝説を受け継ぐにふさわしいか勝負しようじゃない。
Inherit the legend of Oyashiro-sama?
あなたの死は お社様のたたりの最後を飾り、この村の伝説のフィナーレを飾る。私の作り上げた物語はその時こそ本当のたたりになるの。
What is her plan? Why eliminate this village? Why get rid of everything? I don't really follow that. I guess we have a lot to learn still. Okay, so I'm starting to believe that we might be fucked. Like, slightly. Only slightly, though. If it was that easy to dispose of Ueshi and Kumagai, I think that's it. I think these officers, these 4 officers, are just gonna get assassinated, and we're all gonna die. Straight up. I am honestly losing hope here. It was now past 8 p.m. Mion ordered some noodles for us, her treat. We also ordered some food for the 4 officers, and we all ate together. We were supposed to call it a night as soon as we talked to Ueshi, but he's still not here. However, we all took it easy, assuming that they'd get here sooner or later. It's getting late. Once you get to Hinamizawa, there aren't many places to get something to eat. I'm sure they're having a quick dinner before coming here. However, the 4 officers seem anxious. They all had families, but Ueshi didn't tell them how late they'd have to be out here. They're hoping that Ueshi will bring other officers to relieve them so they can go home. They called the station, but all they said was that Ueshi was on his way. And we should wait because he'll be here soon.
遅いね、大石さん。渋滞にでも巻き込まれたんだよ。ちょうど帰宅ラッシュの時間帯にぶつかっただろうからね。おまわりさんもお昼からずっといてくれてるんですのよね。交代が来てあげないとかわいそうですわね。
そうだな。何時に終わるのかもわからない仕事って疲れるもんな。
警察の人には休んでもらって、私たちが夜景にでも立ちます？聡子のトラップワークで不審者の接近を阻むとか。甘いですわね、シオンさん。ここは私とリカの家なんでしてよ。常に二重三重のトラップが張り巡らせてありますわ。
It's basically Home Alone.
そうなんだ。神社で遊ぶときは注意しないとね。
With our stomachs full, the mood of the house had returned to a lighthearted one. True, we shouldn't be so relaxed, but knowing that Ueshi would be here shortly made us feel relieved. But he's so late. He said he'd be here in an hour. Mion mentioned he might have gotten stuck in traffic, but I'm sure Ueshi was considering that. And that's why he told me it'd take him about an hour. And it had now been 1 hour since the time Ueshi was supposed to get here. I want to believe that he's getting something to eat on the way, but I'm starting to get concerned. Concern is something good to have right now. Ueshi still hasn't shown up. It's almost 11 o'clock. The officers are completely exhausted. They had even started to smoke cigarettes outside. My friends are becoming tired too. Sotoko is yawning. It's way past our bedtime. Everyone else is getting tired and sleepy. We've been spending our time watching TV and reading manga. I can feel my fears succumbing to sleepiness. Today is almost over. I'm going to survive the day I'm supposed to die. Does that mean that I escaped my deadly fate? No. I'll have to fight endlessly from tomorrow on. I was going to discuss that with Ueshi. Since he's not here, I don't know what to do from this point on. Suddenly the phone rang, breaking the silence.
大石さんか？
もしもし、フルでなのです。
Any guesses who it could be? I think it's gonna be Okonogi.
夜分遅くに申し訳ありません。
Nope.
沖宮署の小宮山と申します。すみません。うちの大石ですが、そちらにおりますか？
いいえ、僕たちもずっと待っているところなのです。
そうですか。わかりました。申し訳ございませんが、そちらに行っている警官に今から応援が行くので、引き継いだら祈祷するようお伝えいただけますか？
わかりましたです。それで、大石はどこに？
夕方頃直接そっちへ行くと連絡があったきりだったので、てっきりそちらへお邪魔しているものと思っていました。大石と交代で警官たちが戻ってくることになってたのですが、いつまでも戻らないのでどうなっているのかと思いまして。
That's what I'd like to know, but arguing with the man on the phone wouldn't accomplish anything. I hung up and gave the message to the officers downstairs. It looked like everyone already heard our exchange on the phone.
どうしたんでございましょうね。遅いにも程がありましたよ。
何か重要な仕事があったりして道草でも食ってるとか？
それなら電話すると思うな。これから行くって電話したんだよ。これだけ遅くなったら絶対に電話してくれると思うな。
まさか東京って連中に襲われたとかか？
まさかと言いたいところですが、リカちゃまの言うような連中の相手なら絶対そんなわけないとも言い切れないのが怖いところです。多分急用が入ったんだよ。それで電話をするのを忘れてるんだと思う。向こうも大の大人、それも天下の大石だよ。そうそう簡単には消されないって。
来るなら早く来てほしいですわね。はあ。
Sadako yawned. Everyone laughs, but some of them are trying not to yawn themselves. Yeah, yawns are contagious, by the way. It is proven. We can't stay up forever. We decided that we'd call it a night once the replacement officers arrived. I'm sure I've survived past the time I was supposed to die. That's probably because the police were protecting me. Perhaps both Takano and the mountain dogs are also on my side, and they took care of the murderer. I don't know who is changing my fate. Maybe my fate hasn't been changed, and I'm going to get killed soon anyway. I don't know if it's because of the police or because of the mountain dogs, but the only thing I know for sure is that I'm still alive. Soon I heard the noise of someone walking on the gravel on the shrine grounds. One of my friends suggested it might be Oshi, but I doubt it. I don't want to expect him and be disappointed when it's not. I'm starting to think like Hanyu.
こんばんは。沖宮署から参りました小宮山と申します。
It wasn't Ueshi. Two of his fellow detectives had arrived instead. They were going to stay downstairs and have the 4 officers return home. They also told my friends to leave.
あとは私たち警察がいますので、どうぞ皆さんは家に帰ってください。ご家族の方が心配しますよ。
みんなありがとうです。刑事さんたちが来てくれましたし、もう大丈夫なので。
本当に大丈夫？邪魔でなければ私たちも泊まるよ。
大丈夫なのです。第一、お布団も寝巻きもないのです。じゃあ明日、これからはなるべくリカちゃんと一緒にいるようにしよう。部活はリカちゃんの家でやるっていうのでどうかな。あら、それなら素敵でございますわよ。僕たちの家の床が抜けてしまうかもしれませんです。
違いねえな。
じゃあリカちゃま、私たちこれで帰りますけど、用心してください。暗闇で一人になるなんてことは絶対しないように。
気をつけますです。じゃあね。また明日。はいです。また明日。
I feel like this is our farewell here. See you tomorrow. Am I really going to see them tomorrow? I have no clue. I've tried so many things over the past 100 years. I've done many things, and I have memories of most of them. And that's why I feel so scared on the day I die. It's the only day that I have no memory of. I don't even know if I'm approaching or escaping my death right now. All I know is that this fear is going to continue until I find some kind of solution. As I started getting ready to go to bed, Sadako suggested that I sleep in my regular clothes rather than in my pajamas. She was thinking that I should remain dressed, just in case someone tries to attack me in my sleep. It sounded ridiculous, but she was just trying to be considerate. I decided to do what she told me to. Sadako seemed so sleepy until a few minutes ago, but she suddenly started passionately explaining to me all the traps she set up on the shrine grounds. She assured me that strangers will end up trapped if they tried to sneak inside this building. To someone else, it might sound like she was just trying to brag. But Sadako was just trying to make me feel better. After everyone else left, she noticed how scared I looked. Sadako's kindness, and everyone else's kindness. I feel it was the right decision for me to talk to my friends. even if that won't end up changing my fate.
Rika.
Hanyu showed up again. She looked upset, so she was probably still thinking that I could get killed at any minute. But I'm actually starting to feel a little better. I might get killed tomorrow, but I feel like I can rest safely at least tonight. I'm more concerned about the fact that Ueshi didn't show up. Still, even if he didn't, the other detectives are here, and will stay on guard downstairs without sleeping. As long as they're here, I think I'll be safe tonight.
どうしたの？お腹でも空いたの？出前じゃ甘いのはないからね。
Ah, poor thing.
冷蔵庫のジュースでも飲む？
Hanyu would usually cheer right up when I suggested drinking some juice, but not this time. Her face looked pale, as if she wasn't even alive. Something out of the ordinary has clearly happened.
どうしたの？もうすぐ時間がやってきますのです。
That sounded far more like a declaration than a prediction. Even Hanyu doesn't have any memories of my death. There's no way she can tell when I will be killed. However, she sounded so certain just now. Perhaps we can feel it in the very cells of our body. Our bodies understand fate far better than we do. Up until now, I felt reassured that we could get through it somehow if we're all together. But as I clung to that life preserver, with a hole leaking air, I was starting to drown in a sea of despair and struggling to keep my head above water. No, I can't let myself feel that way. I have to believe.
大丈夫よ。羽生、私は抗う。たとえ明日殺されるとしても、今夜殺されるという運命にだけは抗う。
Hanyu just gave me a look of faint sadness. That silence told me that my pitiful hope was going to push me down into a futile reality. I stared at Sotoko as she continued to brag about her traps. If I'm getting killed shortly, Sotoko won't be safe either. I quickly interrupted her talk about traps. I'm feeling pretty anxious here, gang. The time was 1 in the morning. As it's hardly a big city, 1 a.m. in Hinamizawa is the middle of the night. The darkness here gets very deep. There was light leaking out from the first floor where 2 detectives sat on guard, but everything else was pitch black. Even the moonlight seemed indistinct.
予定時刻です。1階には刑事2名、2階は消灯してすでに1時間以上が経過します。本部より3査。
こんなに月の綺麗な夜だもの。始めなさい。
刑事は排除でよろしいですか？
そうね。今夜古出神社にいた人間は全てが忽然と姿を消し鬼隠しとなる。それでいいわ。
本部より大鳥、作戦開始。保証の刑事2名は実力で排除せよ。なお発砲は許可しない。繰り返す、発砲は許可しない。本部よりウグイス、大鳥が作戦を開始する。電話線を遮断せよ。
ウグイス了解、遮断する。
They had been working to disable the phone lines just in case their target tried to contact the police during the attack. That mission was what Ueshi happened to bump into. I had a feeling that's what it was.
ほんじゃ、始めるかいね。大鳥湾より全隊員へ突入準備。1階の刑事2名と2階の同伴者1名を排除せよ。痕跡を残せん。発砲禁止。ガスも使えんね。テーサーを使え。単銃で武装してるぞ。撃たせるな。
おこのぎ、素人相手に手こずらないでよ。
まあ仕事ですんで。大鳥7、8前進。バックアップは周辺警戒を厳重にされたし。
大鳥7、よ、前進する。
The 2 men in uniform slowly approached the building. The mountain dog's uniform is gray, so it didn't blend in with their surroundings at all. However, it doesn't look as suspicious as real camouflage suits. Of course, they look suspicious enough creeping up to the house like that anyway. They could both see light leaking from the door and hear the voices of the detectives. Rika would typically use this sliding door to get inside. The door was locked, but the mountain dogs had obtained a spare key a long time ago. They put the key in the keyhole, but it wouldn't go in smoothly. They were certain it would make some kind of noise when they turned it. The detectives would notice them the minute they did that. They'd have to rush inside and defeat them in one swift burst. Phoenix's 7 and 8 glanced at each other.
大鳥7より本部、準備位置に到着。 突入指示を請う。
高野です。綺麗に決めるのよ。行きなさい。
了解。突入する。
Clack, clack. He turned the key in a hurry and opened the lock. By the time the detectives, turned around, the door was already open, and the two mountain dogs had stepped inside. They had aimed their weapons at the detectives while the latter were still turning around. In a fight like that, the first 2 seconds are the most crucial moments. The detectives collapsed, making minimal noise. There were needles stuck in their bodies, and those needles were connected via wires to the attackers' guns. In other words, the weapons those two had weren't ordinary guns. They were stun guns in the shape of firearms. Instead of bullets, they shoot out electric needles that electrocute their victims into unconsciousness. Normally, they would be non-lethal weapons that allowed the shooter to capture their victim without harming them much. But their tasers had been modified. The two dogs started walking up the stairs as soon as they confirmed that the detectives were no longer breathing. But in the next moment, they heard a loud noise above them.
こちら大鳥店 R 以下2名が感づいた。2階の窓から飛び降りたぞ。裏の茂みへ逃走している。大鳥4、5、そっちへ行くぞ。制圧しろ。大鳥4、沈黙。
Phoenix 4 spotted the two girls and started after them, but he suddenly stepped onto something hard. Pow, pow, pow. With a cheap-sounding explosion, the area was filled with smoke. That was the trap Sotoko had set using firecrackers. That had proven to be a very fortunate idea. Yeah, that somehow worked. The mountain dogs dropped to the ground, assuming that they were under fire. That gave Rika and Sotoko a chance to escape.
なんなんですのあいつらは。リカの言う東京なんですの。多分ね。いいから走って。捕まったら殺されるわよ。
どうした応答しろ。今の音は何だ。
こちら大鳥5。銃撃を受けた模様。R は突破した。追撃する。
くそ、感触玉か何かだ。畜生め。
さとこちゃんね。やるわね。
ああ、情けな。近場の班は急行しろ。
大鳥18、発見した。追跡中。応援を送れ。
二人は土地勘が強いわよ。早く抑えないと確実に見失うわ。
This wasn't a game of hide and seek, it was a game of tag. Several men in uniform were chasing after Rika and Sotoko. They weren't idiots, so they didn't waste energy on a futile act of shouting wait. This was a quiet, deadly game of tag in the middle of the night.
どこへ行きますの？バラバラになって追っ手を振り切りましょうです。落ち合うのはミーの家。地下の隠し部屋なら安全だし、外部と連絡も取れますです。
Sotoko had no idea that Mion had a basement in her house, but she didn't have time to ask anything about it under her current circumstances. All she did was nod. Bang. The next moment I felt my left foot catch on something and I fell down to the ground. I must have tripped on a rock or a piece of concrete. But Sotoko wouldn't move on without me. She came back to lend me a hand. I stood up without her help, but this cost us too much time. One of the men had almost caught up with us. I didn't know what to do, but Sotoko, upon seeing him, quickly reacted. Sotoko ran toward him and kicked him with all her might? Her foot had landed right in his face. I wish I had a camera. But there were two more of them right behind the first man. I can see them clearly now. They're the gardeners from that landscape company. They're wearing the same uniforms Okanogi is always wearing. They must be the mountain dogs. Now I'm certain that Takano is the culprit. And now that I know that, I can do something about it in the next world. But if I die now, will I lose my memory again? I can't die now. I need to survive so I can keep my memories. Sotoko took something out of her pocket and threw it at them. It was something like sand and it blinded them. However, even that could only buy us a few seconds. Sotoko tried to run, but she froze as soon as they aimed their weapons at us. Their stun guns are only shaped like firearms. Sotoko, not knowing that, thought they were real guns. Knowing that she'll be shot if she turned and ran, Sotoko tried to attack them instead. Of course, there were three of them. Most would think it impossible to drive them off, but Sudoko didn't think about that. She had a 100% chance of dying if she tried to run. Then she might as well fight back, because she might have a 1% chance of defeating them. I still don't like my odds. Sudoko is determined to save me, even at her own expense. But I can't stay in this world if it means losing Sudoko. I'm dying anyway. I'd rather die for Sudoko's sake than lose her. But another me was shouting in my mind, if I don't survive this, I'll lose this memory. If I die without keeping this memory, this life and everything I've learned will all be wasted. Should I escape and leave Sudoko behind? That's right. I should use this experience to my advantage in my next life. I should just let go of her in this world.
無理ね。それができる魔女なんかになれるものか。
But I know in my heart, there's no way I can win against these guys. I'm sure their backup will get here if we take our time to fight them. Should I fight them for her, or should I leave so I can confront my true enemy? Oh, god damn it, it is... Oh, no. It's making us choose. I don't know. Okay, never mind. I guess it just chose for us. I didn't do that. I did not do that. It did it for me. I swear, I didn't do anything there. It literally did that on its own. So I actually don't even know which one it selected. So I guess we're just gonna continue on. Yeah, I didn't even have the opportunity to click anything there. Sudoko's bravery gives me courage. If I left her, I'd lose my motivation to defeat fate. I don't care if I lose my memories. It only took 100 years for me to get this information. I don't care if I have to spend another 100 years in this same June. I can't leave Sudoko.
サトコ、二人で戦おう。リカ、逃げなさいって言いましたですのよ。
I had noticed something. They're only aiming at Sudoko. There must be a reason why they can't shoot me. So I stood in front of Sudoko to protect her. Just as I expected, they put their guns down and prepared to take us out without weapons.
あんたらは山犬ね。やっぱり黒幕は高野だったのね。私もバカね。あんたたちの正体を知りながら逃げることを選ばないなんて。でもね、私は逃げないの。ここであんたたちに殺されるのが運命だとしてもね。運命なんてね、教えてくれた人がいるから。
They must think that this is my final speech. They let me talk until I was finished.
バカな奴らね。だからあんたたちは金魚が救えないんだ。
The next moment, one of them dropped to the ground. Keiichi had run toward him and kicked him from behind? Alright, Keiichi. Keiichi had kicked him right in the small of his back, and the dog was squirming on the ground. The other two tried to retaliate, but they were too late. Mion grabbed onto the guy's arms from behind and flipped him down to the ground. It must be some kind of martial art. I've seen something like that in an action movie before. Rena tried to push the remaining dog down with all her strength, but that wasn't enough to take him out. He tried to aim his gun at Rena, but she had already done what she was supposed to do. All she needed to do was get his attention. Shion had snuck up behind him and she fired her stun gun into his neck. I forgot she had that. The stun gun made a snapping noise and the dog fell down to the ground with the rest of his friends.
カサイのやつ改造済みとは言ってたけど、こりゃ効きます。
Oh, we know. We know.
シオン、こっちの連中にもお願い。
大丈夫か、サトコにリカちゃん。まさに危機一髪だったな。お前らの足が速いんで追いつくのに苦労したぜ。
ずっと待っててよかったね。張り込んでた甲斐があったよ。張り込んでたって、あの後お家へ帰らずずっと見張っていましたの、皆さんは。帰り際にね、すっごく不審な人がずっと草陰に潜んでて神社を伺ってるのを見つけたの。
いやー、よく見つけたよな、あの暗闇で。レナには嘘も迷彩も通用しないってことだな。
So, figuring he would leave if they spoke to him, they secretly staked out that suspicious man. They started following us as soon as they heard the sound of the firecrackers.
まさか
ここでみんなに救われるとは思わなかったのです。
とにかくここにいたらすぐに応援が来るぞ。どうするこれから。
私たちミオンさんの家に逃げ込むつもりでしたのよ。地下でかくまってもらえるとかいう話で。
地下最後殿ですか？確かにあそこなら都合がいいです。しかもあそこ武器も隠してませんでしたっけ？そういうのは言わない。とにかく私もうちに逃げ込むのは賛成。あそこには秘密の通路がいくつもあるから連中の裏をかけるよ。
なら急ごう。追っ手が来てる。
A white van was approaching us at high speed. It's obviously belonged to the mountain dogs. The van stopped not far from us and more people in uniform jumped out. There were at least 6 of them. If we all run, the slowest runner might get caught. So we should take them down while we can. I don't know if they have a license, but Mion and Shion know how to drive a car. We can take their van and get away from here.
6人だ。ちょうどいいね。全員の全力でぶちのめして車をいただこう。
それは明暗ですわね。
そうと決まりゃ速攻だぜ。
The mountain dogs were ready to chase us. They had no idea that we would try and attack them instead. Rena is always the first one to make a move in this kind of situation. She gets so determined once a decision is made. She immediately singled out one dog and punched him in the nose. Another one tried to grab her from behind, but Keiichi kicked him in the side as hard as he could.
おいおいレナ、やり合うときは背中を気にしろよ。
Who would win, literally trained military men or a bunch of club members from Hinamizawa? Am I
ケイチ
right?
君に任せるよ。よろしくね。
レナさんのひなみざわ復帰前ってめちゃくちゃ興味あります。というか人殴るのに躊躇なさすぎ。スタンガン使うのに躊躇ないあんたが言わない。
Given that Shion had that stun gun, the mountain dogs were reluctant to go after her. They were scared of the very dangerous weapon she had in her hand. But thanks to that, Shion had stopped one of them for certain. It was fortunate for us that they didn't have any guns of their own. They had no way of countering Shion's stun gun. Sudako attacked him from behind. She encircled his neck with a jump rope and pulled. Shion followed up, quickly hitting him with her stun gun. What was I doing during all that? The only thing I can do is run around and try to get their attention. They're pursuing me after all. They want to catch me more than anything else. But that leaves them open to attacks from my friends. Keiichi had already hit the one trying to grab me. I think we have a chance here. We may not be able to take all of them down, but we can try and find a chance to escape in their vehicle, or escape to their vehicle.
リカちゃんから話を聞いていたとき、とんでもねえ奴らだとビビっていたが、どうやら俺たちと同等程度みたいじゃねえか。
みーちゃんの部活メンバーはつまりそのくらい強いってことなんだね。
I guess one could say it's the power of friendship.
恐れないというのが多分強さの秘密ですね。お姉の部活は遠慮ってやつをなくす訓練みたいなもんですから。
If we all fight together, we can win this 6-on-6 battle. If any of us wasn't here, they'd beat us easily. We'd end up dead. If my friends hadn't stayed behind, I would have been killed by now. We can do it. We can make it. The dogs Shion took down with her stun gun were starting to wake up. The ones that we knocked out earlier were also up and chasing us again. We have to get out of here. This isn't the time for me to just be running around.
ちょうどいいわね。やってやるわ。
リカ、
羽生、あなたは相変わらず諦めてるんでしょ。諦めない悪あがきがどれだけの力を持つか、そこで見てなさい。私は打ち破る。私たちは打ち破る。今からね。それをあなたの目の前で見せてあげる。よし、みんないいね。一撃で決めるよ。目の前の敵を一人打ち倒せ。それから車を奪って逃げる。
はいです。 僕もやりますですよ。
気に入ったぜリカちゃん。よっしゃ行くぞー。
On Keiichi's signal, we attacked 6 of the mountain dogs in unison. Time gradually slowed down. I truly felt like I was trying to overcome that impossible wall of time and change my fate. However, time continued to slow even further until it stopped. What's going on? I felt like the film reel of a movie had gotten hung up partway through. Like time itself has come to a standstill, excuse me.
羽生、どういうこと？その時が来たのです。どうして？
Wearing a sad expression, Hanyu pointed at Keiichi. I finally noticed something. All my friends had noticed already, except for Keiichi.
ケイイチ、その胸の前に浮いているのは。
何ってなんだよ。あ？これなんだよ。
Time had stopped just when Keiichi was about to hit his opponent. He then realized that something was floating in front of his heart. It was a metallic silver cone? That was the first thing I could think of. I have no idea what's happening here.
嘘。ケイちゃん。
Is it a bullet?
なんだよこれ。まさか集団？
That's exactly what it was. The bullet had stopped about 15 centimeters away from Keiichi's chest just before it would enter his body. That's right. Once time starts moving again, it will slam it into his chest. In other words, it's too late. Keiichi will immediately die when time starts up again.
誰が撃ったの？だって相手は6人。誰も銃なんか持ってないよ。あそこワゴン車のところですわ。
Sudoko couldn't point at the van. Time had completely stopped after all. We could see another person standing near the van. There had actually been 7 people inside, not 6. That 7th person was the one who fired the bullet. We hadn't seen her at all. That person is someone we all know very well. Yes, it's Takano.
高野さんだ。高野さんが撃ったの？ケイイチ君は？
In the frozen world, Takano was smiling, still aiming her gun at Keiichi. Takano had been watching us from the van this whole time. She came out and fired her gun, knowing that we hadn't seen her at all.
そっか。なるほどな。やっぱり黒幕は高野さんだったんだな。
どうしよう。ケイちゃん、なんとか体をひねってかわせないんですか？
バカ。無理なこと言うなよ。弾丸だって止まるくらいに全てが止まってるんだぞ。俺だって動けるわけがねえだろ。
なら時間が動き出すのと一緒に上半身を反らすんですの。そうすれば少しでも違うかもしれませんわよ。
Everyone was desperate to save Keiichi. However, no matter how hard we thought, we couldn't come up with any ideas to save him from the bullet. We were so desperate that Keiichi started to laugh.
なんかよくわからないけどさ。とにかくこうなっちまったものは仕方がない。時間が動き出せば俺は死ぬだろう。死ななくてもまあ少なくとも戦力にはならなくなるな。だからみんな今のうちに俺のことを諦めろ。そして目の前の敵と高野さんをぶちのめして車を奪うことを考えるんだ。
嫌です。ケイイチが死んでもダメです。そんな世界は嫌なのです。羽生、これが運命だというの？避けられない運命だというの？大丈夫ですよ、リカ。忘れられます。忘れられますから。嘘だよ、嘘だ！ケイちゃんがこのまま死んじゃうなんて。やめなよ、みーちゃん。とにかく目の前の相手を倒すことに集中しよう。倒れるケイイチ君に振り返る時間をきっとケイイチ君は望まない。
ああ、そうだぜレナ。頼むぞみんな。リカちゃんをまずはこの場を逃げ延びて監督に連絡を取れ。多分こいつらは大石さんをもう殺してる。だからあれだけ待っても来なかったんだ。みんな生き延びろよ。 絶対だ。
ケイチ。
リカちゃん、最後の最後にごめんな。運命なんて覆せるって大見え切っておきながら最初にリタイアしちまう。
Yeah, there's no changing this fate. It sounded just like Takano's regular laughter, but it was the scariest noise I'd ever heard.
根性の名残は尽きた。
高野さん、これで俺たちが負けたと思うなよ。
見終わったのね、走馬灯。
The silence suddenly ended, and the clamor of reality returned. An explosive sound then hit Keiichi straight in the chest. I watched Keiichi collapse right in front of me. He fell down on his back while his blood splattered everywhere, and after that he stopped moving. There's no way any of us weren't shocked by that. We tried to take down the foes in front of us, but more came from behind. We tried to struggle as best as we could, but there was no way we could win against all those adults. I did my best to fight them off, but they pulled my hair and picked me up as if I weighed nothing. I heard everyone's desperate screams of resistance. The comforting and courageous unity we showed right before Keiichi was shot shattered like glass. The debris of that glass lay sadly on the ground. Takano's annoying laughter was still echoing inside my ears.
高野より本部へ制圧したわ。私の言ったものを準備させて。それから死体がたくさん出るから処分の手配を。死体袋が5つと血を流すのに水がいるわね。持ってこさせて。
She needs 5 bags. My body froze up, but time did not. Takano, laughing, pointed her gun at Mion's head.
嘘でしょ。
あなたの背中の入れ墨、一度見てみたかったの。後で見せてもらうわね。
見たければ勝手に見ればいいでしょ。見たってつまらないよ。
そう？私は楽しいと思うわよ。
やめて！兄ちゃんを撃たないで！
Takano shook her head in response to Rena's scream.
ダメよ。ミオンちゃんが部長さんなんだから一番じゃなきゃね。
嘘。やめ。
See ya. Oh my god. Are we going in order of the chapter characters? No, that can't be right. Rena would be first. I mean, we did follow Keiichi in that one, technically. It was more of like his chapter. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking into it too much. There was a dull noise, followed by Mion's body twitching. We all tried to break free from the men restraining us as Takano calmly shot Mion. However, they were too strong and all we could do was squirm like insects. Takano was enjoying watching us struggle. She then stepped towards Sotoko. We are going in order! Oh my gosh! But Shion started screaming curses at her.
あら、あなたが先に撃たれたいのかしら？おとなしくしてれば、もう数秒は余計に生きられたのに。
やめてシオンさん。挑発なんかしても意味がありませんでしたよ。
I know why she's doing that. Shion wants to protect Sotoko for as long as she can. She's trying to do what Satoshi told her to. Takano didn't care one whit for Shion's feelings. Stepping over Keiichi's body, she approached Shion. Never mind, I guess we're not going in order.
私、やっとわかりましたよ。サトシ君を。あんたが殺したんですね。そうなんでしょ。
あいにくね、メイドの土産って嫌いなの。だから教えてあげないわ。
Damn, alright. Shion's body twitched. That had followed the dull sound of another gunshot. Just 2 dull sounds had stolen away the lively Sonosaki sisters. It didn't add up. I started shaking from fear when it hit me just how easily Takano can take away lives.
無抵抗の人を撃って楽しいの？この人でなし！
あら、次はあなたが撃たれたいの？黙ってれば最後の順番になったのに。
Yeah, she was going to be the last one because of Chapter 6. Keiichi, Mion, and Shion died. The oldest one of us left was Rena. Rena didn't want to see Sotoko and me die before she did.
連続開始事件は
全部高野さんの仕業だったんですね。お社様のたたりの代行者のつもりだったんですか？
代行者じゃないわ。私がたたりを下すのよ。あなたには見せられないわね。お社様の怒りがこれからこの村に下るのは。それは私が起こす。私のたたり。そう。私はまさにお社様そのものになるのよ。
Oh, so that's what she is, or that's what she has. It's a, it's like a complex for having to be in control.
その時、私は人としての域をようやく超えることができるの。
She herself truly was, she wants to become a god. She said something like that before, right?
まあ、あなたには私の気持ちはわからないでしょうね。人を超えて神になろうとする心地よさなど誰にも理解できないわよ。
無理だと思うな。高野さんがどれだけお社様のふりをしたってお社様にはなれないよ。所詮はごっこ遊び。お社様になんかあなたはなれない。
なれるわよ。これからなるもの。
Rena laughed at her. Takano seemed very upset to hear that laugh.
何がおかしいのかしら。
無理だよ。だってお社様はいるんだもの。
Those were Rena's last words.
さて、最後はさとこちゃんね。あなたは殺しても殺さなくてもでもあなたは生きた研究資料だからね。東京はあなたの生きたままの捕獲に懸賞金をつけてくれてるわ。大した額じゃない。私の取り分はせいぜいヨーロッパに旅行に行ったら消える程度よ。まあ生け捕りにしてもあなたは結局はろくな目に遭わないけどね。生きたまま頭蓋を切開されるのが関の山よ。それに私あなたとはお友達だったしね。この場で撃ち殺してあげるのも優しさかと思ってる。どっちがいい？
そんなの決められるわけないでございますわよ。
Sotoko shouted back at her. Her eyes were full of tears.
じゃあクイズ。ブロッコリーとカリフラワー、緑色はどっち？
いえ、ブロッコリー。
What? As soon as I heard the same dull sound, Sotoko stopped moving. Takano smiled and said good girl to what used to be Sotoko.
本当に今夜は月の綺麗な素敵な夜だことね。
そして私を殺すのね。
ええ、殺すわ。女王感染者の死体が作戦の鍵なの。あなたはここから遠く離れた東京の地での醜い政治的勢力争いの具になるのよ。そして鬼ヶ淵村の伝説のピリオドとなる。
私をどういう殺し方にするか高野の考えそうなことが分かっ。
あら、わかるの？言ってみて。
I'm not gonna say it, but I know. It's Watanagashi. She wants to do the real Watanagashi using my body. I'm sure she's planning to cut open my stomach and pull out my guts. To do that, she'll make me inhale some chemical to put me to sleep. I vaguely remember that part.
想像がついてるよね。じゃあおやすみなさい、リカちゃん。
One of the dogs approached me with a handkerchief soaked in a chemical substance.
高野、待ちなさい。
みんな潔く死んだのにあなたは命乞いなの？
違うわ。私を殺すなら眠らさずに殺しなさい。
Oh, you crazy. Takano hadn't expected to hear that. Still, even though she was surprised, she nodded with a slight smile. Hanyu was also surprised to hear that. It would obviously be a terrible way to die.
どういうつもり？楽に死ぬ気がないの？辛いわよ。生きたまま腹を裂かれるのは忘れないためよ。
Yeah. I'm doing this so I'll remember. I'm not going to forget about it.
あなたが私の腹を裂くの。私は魂に刻みつける。それを私は絶対に忘れない。あなたに再び会った時、あなたが敵であることを思い出すために。
何を企んでるやら。でもあなたは他の子たちよりは少しは賢明みたいね。1秒でも長生きすれば悲鳴を上げるくらいのチャンスはあるかもしれないからね。でもそうはさせないわ。
They forced something other than the handkerchief inside my mouth. It was a gag. With that in, I couldn't close my mouth, leading my saliva to start overflowing. Soon another van arrived. More mountain dogs came out of it. They had probably come to get rid of the bodies, and they had grabbed the corpses of my friends and stuffed them into body bags. After that, they spread a bunch of water on the ground to clean up the blood. They asked Takano how many shots she'd fired and started looking around for the bullets. They were erasing all the evidence. By the time the night was over, there'd be no more proof left. They pulled my hands behind my back and bound them with handcuffs. My ankles were tied up too. They also tied my ankles and wrists together. My body was bent like a shrimp, and I was no longer able to walk. My mouth was covered so I couldn't even talk. I couldn't move, talk, or express myself in any other way. They had taken away everything that made me human. Therefore, I wasn't human anymore. I was just a toy named Rika Furude, a toy to give Takano joy. The cars started moving. It seemed like we were going back the way we came, but I didn't care anymore. As the time of my death approached, some of my forgotten memories came back to me. That's right. I was killed like this so many times. Every time I repeated my life, Takano got pleasure out of killing me. Somebody rubbed my head. Were they trying to comfort me? I shook my head to try and refuse. They laughed at me as I did so. Yep, we're gonna die. But we'll find out about all that dying in the next episode, I guess. I was told we have like 2.5 hours left. There's no way that we're approaching the end yet, but this is, you know, greatly looking like this is going to be another bad ending. But at least we're seeing it all play out. We now know every angle. We know so much. We know like 99% of everything at this point. At this point, it's just kind of seeing how this plays out. And, I don't know. Takano, whatever her goal is, why does she want this? There has to be more than just, like, this god complex that she has. So, I don't know. I feel like those are, like, the two things we got to get out of this. You know, seeing her die, whatever Takano's deal is. I don't know if she'll tell us or explain it in the, you know, evil bad guy sort of way of explaining their plan or whatever, but I don't know. I guess we'll just see what happens in the next episode, but maybe the next one will be the finale. If it was 2.5 hours or so remaining, then I'll strain myself and try to finish it up in one more episode. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, it's really hot. It really is. I've been sitting here for way longer than I wanted to. Thank you all for watching this episode, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz. Before we end up, though, two more things I want to talk about. One, goddamn, this episode hit real hard, and in a lot of ways, just seeing our friends die like that, one by one, that's rough. Especially since there seemed to be a slight sliver of hope. But as I was saying earlier, like, damn, really do not be looking like we're getting out of this alive. There's no way. These guys are just, like, everywhere, and they are strong, and they are geared. It just didn't seem likely. And another thing, this, like, slowing time down to a halt sort of deal that we've seen in, like, almost all the chapters, seemingly. I don't know if that's, like, a thing, like an anime thing. Like, okay, this is actually just this is anime, this is fiction. Like, you know, we're just kind of adding this in just because. Or if that's actually part of the syndrome. I'm not really sure. I don't know. Or if it's just their life flashing before their eyes. I don't know. I really don't know what that freezing is. And we've seen it in chapter 1. I know that was the first one there, when the Okanogi van was coming up on Keiichi, trying to run him off the damn road. Yeah, time kind of came not to a halt, but it like really slowed down or something. I don't know. That's one element I don't understand, but I at least wanted to bring it up, and how I kind of I had to roll with it. I couldn't question it at the time. I just had to roll with it, or else we wouldn't be getting anywhere. All right, I'm tired of hearing the jingling. I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.